this is Sho, and thank you so much for checking out the video. In this next in our Monarch video support series, we're going to be talking a lot about the Madness system, as well as how it partakes in battle and during the game's exploration kind of setup. Now, I refer to this mostly as the stability system, so this is why I refer to an attack review. This is basically the Madness gauge and the Awakening gauges. Now, this has quite a few things that we're going to cover, so what we're going to do is break this video into 3 different parts. Part 1, we're going to be looking at basically how what is the Madness gauge, and how does it impact sort of your school life exploration. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the special features that the Madness gauge offers in battle, and then at the end, I'm going to be demonstrating how to properly perform an Awakening, and more importantly, an Enlightenment, as there are trophies that are directly related to these 2 specific points. So that's what we're going to be covering for this video. I hope this is really helpful. If those of you who've been playing the demo, you're not really too sure how the whole system works, hopefully this will get you some more information. So let's talk about the Madness gauge. Now, basically, the Madness gauge is at the bottom right of my screen there. You see my symbol being the king in the chess game, and we have Mad 35%. Now, this is my post-game Japanese data, so unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this too well, but maybe what I'll try to do is splice in a little clip right about now, so hopefully I can get that in there. But basically, as you are exploring the main game, you'll be going through the mist, right, the fog, and you'll notice that the gauge, your Madness gauge will slowly increase over time, bit by bit, as you go through any mist-covered zone. Now, when this reaches 100% in the overworld, basically what happens is you get not really a game over, but you get sort of knocked out, and you end up back here at the nurse's office. So, great place to be. This character that you see here does come up a little bit later in the game, so not really too much of a spoiler, I hope not. But yeah, this is our nurse, Shironeko, and basically, if you get blacked out with 100% Madness, you'll instantly be transported right back here. And this is really important because every time that you need to clear out your Madness, you're going to want to come here. So as you see, I have 35% Madness. Let's say I want to prepare for a boss fight or some grinding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk up to Shironeko. It's her nickname in the Japanese version. She's going to rest. Thank you. Yep, I won't go too far. And as you can see, my Madness gauge has become 0%, which is awesome. So, woohoo. Now we can get back in the battle and not have to worry about all of the negative effects Madness can have during the battle. Or if we are exploring a lot, we take a little bit extra time with our puzzles, we can come back here to get freshened up so we can prepare for any future battles when we do our idea crystals. Now, one important thing I just want to talk about the nurse's office is the ways that you'll be reducing Madness. Of course, what I just demonstrated was probably the primary way most of you are going to be doing it. But winning battles also lowers your Madness gauge, but just by a little bit, only about, I think, 5% each time, which sort of kind of outweighs the benefits because you're going to be gaining Madness every single battle, as you will see shortly. But it's important to note that the game gives you 5 of these items. Let me find it real quick here. Bam, right here. So the literal translation for this is tranquilizer. So I forgot if they used the same language in the English version, but yeah, this is literally Seishin Ante Saki, or Sai, which is basically tranquilizer. This, when used in battle, lowers your Madness gauge of a character by 30% each time. And the game basically ensures that you always have 5 of these available. So if you talk to the nurse to cure your Madness and you don't have 5 of these tranquilizers, they will automatically give you however many you need to always maintain 5. So it's kind of one of the game's, I guess, systems to make sure that you don't have too many problems going through it. Other than that, there is another way to reduce your Madness gauge in battle, and that is the Awakening, which we will look at in just a second as we start our battles. So, speaking of which, let's actually begin a battle here, so we can go into the second part of our video, which is talking about Madness in battle, Awakening in battle, and the Enlightenment system. Now, real quick, I want to kind of chime this in here. One important point that we should talk about now before we get into the battle mechanics is the leveling. All human characters, so this I don't think it's spoiler territory since obviously these all have been showcased, but you have 5 of the main categories. You have the MC, you have Nozomi, you have Shinya, you have Date or Ryotaro, and then you have Kokoro. Each one of them, if we check their leveling section, as you can see, I've close to the end game for most of them. Each one has 2 specific abilities. So one is symbolized with a sort of crown here. So you can see this one like right here. And then one is sort of like a crown with some little sparkles or stars. For Kokoro, we have them right here and right here. The one that's just like a basic crown like this one is this character's awakening skill. Now, awakening skills are essentially the limit breaks I talked about before. In order to use it, you must have at least 1 level unlocked and be in the awakened form. The other one that has sort of the crown with the little sparkles and circles is the enlightening skill. This is basically like a super powered version of the limit break, but it doesn't always have the same effect. For instance, if we look at the main character's awakening skill, I think the English translation was like Soul Breaker or something. Basically just deals a huge amount of damage to a single target. 450% power, which is huge. And his awakening skill here, basically his enlightening skill, basically for 1 turn, he grants like massive buffs to every legion that's on the field. So if you hold a lot of legions in play, which you probably will be towards the latter half of the game, this could be a great way to buff up your entire party to do some ridiculous damage. Anyway, in order to be able to get the trophies and the achievements for awakening skills, you need to be having all characters unlocked at least level 1 of each of these, and you'll need to use them in battle by properly awakening them and enlightening them as needed. So, with that said, let's actually get into it and see all of this stuff work in battle. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I've decided to go for one of the special SSR stages. These are stages that they've been introducing every month that kind of have like extra dialogue in the schoolroom there that you can unlock by completing it. So hopefully these will be made available on the English release as well, but it's something that they've been doing to keep the players interested in the game. Now, for me, I'm going to quickly just set up my party real fast with a few of my favorites. I usually go for a party very similar to this, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. But what we're going to do is hop in and see the next part, which is how these all work in battle. All right. Now, as I mentioned in the TAC review, every single action in this game costs something. So, taking the main character here, if we go into our arts skill, we can see that most of the skills we have for attacking, like the throwing knife or like the backstabs, they require a certain amount of HP cost. And if we actually do the action right here, we see that not only do they lose life for taking damage, but I lose some life. And this is the case with all of the characters in here. The exception is this skill, which is the resolve skill, which increases the awakening. But let's not get too far ahead right now. So, once again, all arts take life, or HP, to cast. Same here. We do damage, but we take some damage. Now, authority skills, which is our magic in the game, basically builds to your madness gauge every time you use it. So as you can see here, we have the power of this. This is like a fireball spell. Power 240, and the madness is 8%. So every time I use this skill, I'm going to have an 8% increase to my madness gauge. We can see that down there. Bam. So I do some good damage, but as you see, my character increased their madness gauge by 8%. The same also works with the reorder or the defer option. If I use it, the character who receives the extra turn gets a small increase to madness. Now, it's extremely important that I note, very importantly, that every time you defer on the same character, it doesn't matter who is deferring their turn, but who receives the turn will have an increase in their madness. So, for example, here, just so we do some quick math, 8% was my starting madness. The first reorder added 5%, so now I'm at 13. I'm going to do one more here to kill this one. And now I'll have Nozomi use her Deferrin on the same one again. And now we're at 31%. So my first deferring was a 5% increase in madness. My second defer was a 10% increase in madness. So this is something to keep very, very cautious about as you play through the game, as the more you defer on a single target, the more and more and more and more you're going to have an issue with them getting higher madness gauges, which has its benefits, but also is a little bit tricky. So let's let the enemy take their turn here real quick. As you see, they're trying to attack me, but I basically have like 20 to 30 levels on them, so it's not super helpful. Alright. So that is basically how madness works in battle. It's important to note as well that in the case of madness, there are some skills where madness actually, where the power of the skill is contingent on the level of madness. So the main character has a lot of the empathy or resonance skills that do various points here. I won't go into them, but I think this one, yeah. So with this skill, basically it says that, I forgot the actual translation for this one, sorry. But basically it is this damage, the damage is contingent on your mad level. So if the main character has a higher mad percentage, this will do even more damage than the base 110 power. As a point of reference, some of the late game battles that require really careful strategy regarding madness mechanics, I've seen this skill do up to 8k or 9k, even I think 10,000 damage on a critical when used at a high enough awakening level. So do keep in mind that madness isn't always a detriment. Sometimes you're required to really mitigate the madness gauge to do high amounts of damage, because if you don't, you're just going to get easily overran and one-shotted. Now, with that said, let's talk a bit about awakening. And luckily I have a few people to help me with that. So, every character, of course, every human character has access to the, what we call the resolve skill in English. Now, it says here it increases by 25%, but I've given Kokoro some extra skills that actually boost it a bit more. So if I use this on myself, because it's a self-targeting skill, we see that my awakening gauge increased up to 35%. So that's pretty cool. So let's use reorder again. Okay, she takes her turn. We're going to do another resolve. 35 more percent. Now she's at 70%. And let's do one final reorder on Kokoro. Sorry, let me turn off the quick speed there so you can see it a little bit easily. And with one more of her awakening skill, she enters her awakened state. Okay. Now I'm going to use one more reorder to show a few things. So as we see here, the bar next to Kokoro has become kind of glowing blue. The awakening gauge is 100% and her madness has become null. So even if I were to use a reorder on her, she will gain no madness this turn. Alright. Now, this also means that if I have her use any of her skills that have mad, nothing happens. It's literally free cast of whatever spells that are authority based. But more importantly, you see that this EX command has come up. So her special skills. Now here we see that there are two special skills, and there's even the symbol that I pointed out earlier. So that basic crown is the awakening skill, and the crown with that little circle, star, diamond is her enlightening skill. So we're going to see that in just a second. But basically here, Kokoro with her awakening skill, her limit break skill basically, allows for her to give increased crit chance to everyone on the field. So we get to see her do that right now. Now, of course, I probably shouldn't be doing this considering no one else can move except for just this one right here. So definitely not tactical, but I'm just doing this to kind of show off the skill in action. One important thing to note is once a character uses their awakening skill or their enlightening skill, depending on where you're at, their awakening status will be reset to 0, and their madness gauge will also be completely reset to 0. So you basically have a choice. If you become awakened or enlightened, you can keep the stat bonuses you get because you get a huge stat bonus. And you can, I think, keep that, I think it's for 3 turns. Or you can instantly use your special skill or your lightning skills, and you can instantly get rid of it, reset everything to 0, and then bam, you're set. So being able to do that effectively is really important to really get the most out of the battle mechanics of this game. So for me, we have the crit, we do 1500, and then bam, enemy's turn. Alright, now let me speed up this section here. The enemy's going to do their best to hit me as hard as they possibly can. So, come on, get through it. Let's go. Let's go, let's go. Okay. Got some status effects there. I hate that. Yeah, that's actually something to point out real quick on the side of battle. Status effects in this game are absolutely ridiculous, so be prepared. Now, what I need to do here is I need to build my madness gauge up a little bit. So I'm going to do that by using a few of my skills here. Oops, attacked myself there. In order to get my madness up, just because I want to demonstrate sort of the most important part of this mechanic, which is the enlightening system. So as my main character is using some skills that are boosting everyone up, I will have Kokoro once more set up her awakening gauge. Also, as I'm setting this all up, it's important to note that your awakening gauge won't always just increase by using the resolve skill, but you can also increase it by taking hits and dealing good attack damages to enemies. So just something important to note for. Okay, so once again, when the enemies can take their turn, we can do some counterattacks. You also just saw there off to the side that the enemies were getting hit by that ball of fire. So there is an achievement for that in the game. So if you are able to go ahead and kind of position enemies up to get damaged out, they can actually get killed and you get a free trophy for that. So something you might be able to see. In the meantime, let's go. Okay. Once again, not quite where I want to be with my turn, but we're really close. Okay. And just to make sure we don't have any problems with death, let's quickly use our healing spell. Okay, 67%. In the meantime, Kokoro's going to charge one more. Okay, so she's almost done. And let's do maybe one more reorder on him. And okay, we're in a perfect position. Good, good, good. Alright, so once more the enemy's going to take all their actions. They're going to try to buff each other. Oh! One of them actually goes into their madness, which is pretty nuts. So this is very, very dangerous because in about 3 turns, that enemy is actually going to blow up and kill everyone. So yeah, it is a good point to point out here. It is actually possible for enemies to also become maddened or enter their madness mode. They will get huge buffs, and if you don't take them out within 3 turns, they will blow up and deal massive damage to you, so be warned. Anyway, let's get to the big part here, which is how to enlighten. So, to enlighten, there's basically 2 big things you need to do first. The first thing you need to do is you have to have one of your other human characters, the not MC, in their awakening mode. So we're going to demonstrate that by having Kokoro one more time use her resolve skill, and she will awaken herself again, just like we saw her do before when she used her skill. Next, we have to take our main character. Now, I've been using a few of my spells to build my madness gauge up to around 90% or so. As you see, I'm at 95%. Every time the main character uses their authority skill, Resonance, as you can see here, it actually adds to his madness gauge by 13%. This is extremely important because if you accidentally push him into madness when you use this, and you are targeting a human who's in their awakened form, not in their awakened form, you actually run the risk of them being going into madness. And once one of your characters enters into madness, there's really no way to get them out without the main character using Resonance and having an awakening. So just to reiterate that one more time, the first step to stopping madness when someone is in madness and or getting the enlightenment, you must have the main character available, and the main character needs to be in an awakening mode or has to connect with someone who's already in their awakened state. So in this case here, my first step was to get Kokoro awakened. We could see that with her blue aura around her. My main character is at 95 madness %. So by using resonance on Koko now, what's going to happen is it's going to push his madness up past 100%, but I'm also going to get Koko's current awakening status of 100%. So let's see that be done right now. So here's the madness awakening. And now here's the enlightening. Right there. Now, of course, the main character is in this costume, but we could see that Kokoro has also undergone a transformation. So we've seen now that she has these kind of fiery aspects off of her, and this is what happens during the Enlightenment mode. The Enlightening mode has your character sort of change their appearance slightly, if you don't have any of the costumes on like I do, and they get this kind of huge red fiery glow. So it's a combination of both the evil and the good in their minds and their hearts. And we can even see with the icons off to the right side that both Kokoro and my main character have that blue-red fire combination. This basically means that they're in their enlightening mode, and this gives them a ridiculous amount of power. Also, what's important to note is that both Madness and Awakening are listed as 100% here. So it's no longer Mad as Null. Literally, both are at the maximum gauges. This provides the strongest buff in the game in terms of stats. So as we'll probably see right here, I will get a pretty powerful hit here. Yeah, there we go, like 1700 with a crit. Huge hit. And most importantly, we're going to be having access to, let me pop out Kokoro up, their EX skills. So now we see with Kokoro, when she was awakened, she can only select her critical up. Now we can get her actual attack skill. And this is going to be pretty important for us. So unfortunately, I'm out of range, which is really sad. But what we can do is we can maybe show it off next turn. So let's just end the turn for now. Very similarly to the Awakening status, Enlightening status is active for 3 turns as well. So after the 3rd turn, it will basically burn off. Or if you use too many actions with them, it will also burn off. Anyway, now we are here. We've activated the Enlightening status. Let's use our Enlightening attack on this enemy. And then bam, KO. Alright. And obviously, probably not the best ranks I'm going to get here. Oh, wow, I gotta ask how that. Wasn't expecting that. But anyway, so yeah, there you go. That is sort of a step-by-step visual tutorial of how the Madness gauges work in Monarch. So just to recap once more, you have 2 gauges, the Madness and Awakening. If you get 100% Madness in battle, what happens is you will get a massive buff, but lose control of your character. And then after 3 turns, your character will automatically explode and kill themselves and dealing damage all around. If you get 100% Awakening, you enter your Awakened state, which you can do by just hitting Resolve multiple times, or by landing attacks and successful blocks and things like that. And in that state, you get another really nice boost of power, as well as access to your Awakening skill, which is like a limit break. We saw with Kokoro, that boosted the entire party's crit. To get Enlightening, what you're going to need to do first is have a human ally, so Kokoro, Nozomi, Ryotaro, or Shinya, in their Awakening state. And then you're going to want to have the main character resonate with them or empathize with them when the main character's madness is at a high level. So as I showed earlier in the video, being around 90%, by resonating with Kokodo, both of them were able to enter into their enlightened state, which allows them a massive boost to all their stats, as well as access to their final limit break skill, which in Kokodo's case was that amazing cannon you just saw. Anyway, if you are able to basically do this pairing with all of your 5 characters and see all of their special skills, you'll be able to get all the trophies associated with Madness Awakenings, Enlightenment Awakenings, and then regular Awakenings, as well as the special skill trophies. So, I hope that helps. Anyway, if this video was really helpful for you, please feel free to like, share, leave some comments down below. If something seems unclear, let me know, and I can explain it a little bit more. And yeah, if you thought this was really helpful, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps. It's your way of sending your love, so thank you so much for that. Anyway, this is Show, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers!